Hi, I'm Karen Russell, and we're at the Yoga NoHo Center in North Hollywood, California. I'm with Susanna Jordan, who's a wonderful teacher here in Los Angeles, and we're going to talk about downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So, one of the main postures in our yoga hatha practice, but there's an idea that this is a resting pose. Some people say, oh, rest in down dog. But to be honest, there's a lot of energy and it can be sometimes challenging. So we want to go back to talking about stacking the joints, going back to those 3 platforms, because those 3 platforms that we talked about in mountain pose, Tadasana, are going to be what you're thinking about throughout your whole practice. So right now, Susanna is in tabletop position. Her fingers are spread wide. She's rooting down into the knuckles of her each finger, the thumb and forefinger in between there, rooting down, trying to take that weight off the wrist, stacking the shoulders slightly over the wrists. She firms the outer upper arms back and down, drawing the navel in. So keeping that, we'll go into our first down dog. She's going to inhale, tuck the toes. And I want her to go slowly so you can see this. And as she exhales, she'll lift the hips high to the sky, start to send her heart to the thighs. So she has a very strong practice. Couple key points here that I want to talk about. So you first want to make sure that as you're rooting your fingers forward, almost like you're trying to stretch the mat out, at the same time, draw the shoulder blades back and down. And you want to widen the space in the collarbone. So a lot of times your shoulders will come up to your ears. Think of firming the outer upper arms back and down, just like you did in mountain pose. Another point here is that the heart is yearning for the thighs. You want to keep a nice straight back. If your back is rounded, and you can always look in a mirror if you at home if you have a mirror, that means that the hamstrings are tight, the back of your legs. So I always say micro bend. So she's going to show you a little micro bend. Now, as she micro bends, she can get her heart back more without collapsing through the shoulders, right? So don't collapse. Let's take a moment, rest a little bit. Let's go back to tabletop. So we'll go back into down dog, but first let me talk a little bit about your drishti point. So there's different lineages of yoga. So when your drishti point or that gaze, you might have to think about what works for you. So there are some lineages of yoga that will ask you to look at your navel in down dog, or at the heels or the toes. I prefer the toes because it keeps the ears in line with the inner arms and keeps a little bit of that chin lock, right, that we talked about earlier. So she's going to go back into her down dog, nice and slow. So the key points of down dog. To keep the weight off the wrist, you want to draw the fingers forward. At the same time, draw the shoulder blades back and down. Then, so that's your shoulder girdle, the second platform. The navel's in, the flesh of the buttocks draws down to the heels. That's the hip. And then the feet, right? The toes are spread, your energy's going down. And the gaze at the toes to keep the ears in line. And you keep breathing in down dog, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. So this posture can become quite challenging, right? So what makes it not so challenging is making sure you go to the 3 platforms and that you're energizing in each platform. Now, let's get into the shoulders a little bit. She's going to take her hands as wide as the mat. This kind of is a little trick to get you into your shoulder girdle. She's going to bend the elbows to the side, but keeping her gaze at her toes. And keeping that, now she's going to firm the outer upper arms back and down as she straightens. And then you'll see the shoulder blades come together. And then let's now bring the hands back to shoulder width apart, because that's where the hands should be in down dog. Now bring the feet as wide, and we're going to just get more into the hips. So remember that we talked about the thighs back, tailbone lengthening. So she's gonna lift her heels up. We're gonna get in the hips a little bit more. She's gonna bend the knees a lot, send the heart to the thighs, stick the booty out a little bit, and then she's gonna lengthen the tailbone down as she sends the heels down. Yes, so she's getting really deep. And then bring the feet back. Remember, micro bend, and she's gonna show you how to micro bend a little bit to keep the back flat. And you might have to micro bend through your whole practice in your down dog. So Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale, slowly lower the knees down, just right down to the floor, and just bring your sit bones to your heels and relax. Also remember, it's just as important, the transition of going in and out of your postures as it is as creating the posture. So always go in and out of your posture with the intention of breath and movement taking you in and out. So now let's try downward facing dog with the blocks. Susana's gonna grab the blocks, and she's gonna put the blocks where her shoulders are, it's shoulder width apart. And she's gonna go through her alignment check, shoulders down the back, her navel in, inhale, tuck the toes, exhale, downward facing dog. So this is wonderful for people that are a little tighter, and also if they have wrist issues. This will take some of that weight off the wrist, but you still wanna make sure that you're going through your checkpoints. So as you root down through the blocks, draw the shoulder blades back, hollow the armpits a little bit more. Micro bend the knees a little bit, Susana, so your back can be a little flatter. And then the final touch, the dristi point, gazing at the toes. Also note that different lineages of yoga might have you do different final gaze points, dristi points. So this is a nice release on your wrists, gives you a little bit more height. Take a nice deep breath in. As always, exhale slowly, come out of your postures nice and slow, just the way you went into them with a lot of intention. And that's downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana with the blocks.